Let's take our 3D printed skull from looking like this to looking like this. To start out, I just did a very rough sand on this. You could leave it as is or use any sanding and filling method that you want, but ultimately for me, this skull is going to be used as part of a larger project, so I don't need it to be perfect. However, just to make the surface a little less shiny and plastic looking, I mixed some drywall spackle with water so that I could easily brush it onto the print and then let it dry in between layers. Be sure to let everything fully dry before you move on to the next layer. I used a heat gun to speed up this process. From here, we're going to apply a wash. This is where you water down your paint and apply it to the entire print to essentially give your print a tint of color. I'll be using this speed paint, which already has a pretty liquidy consistency, but you can essentially use any paint that you have laying around, including these acrylic paints. Just add more water to get the consistency that you need. To start, don't think too much about what you're doing. Add a lot of water to your brush and just get color all over the print. The idea is to add multiple layers with a very minimal amount of color, which is going to layer on top of each other and look more realistic. Think of it like the bones slowly getting stained over time. After a few layers of my default bone color, I picked up this darker color. We're still going to water this down quite a bit, and again, don't worry about perfection here, but if you look into the eye sockets right now, you can see the points where the shadows are naturally falling inside of there. If you move the skull around in the light, you can use this to get a gauge for where you should put those darker areas of paint. In addition to the places where shadows would be cast on here, also think about the small nooks and crannies where dirt would likely build up on something like this. For example, the grooves in between the teeth. As you can see, I applied the dark paint over this full area to get into all those grooves, but then I go over it with this dry paintbrush to pull up the excess paint in the areas that I don't want it. You're just going to keep building up these layers and repeating the process until you get the look that you're going for. Here's the finished product, but now it's time for us to weather this gold crown.